Well,
looked twice, but I didn't.
we used to have that clock working, but
I can get you that job.
well, the thing is, it would tick, 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 on the minutes, we'd record the minutes of the county board meetings, you'd hear that tick, tick, tick on there all the time.
George silenced that.
George said no more. Yep.
How old do you think that clock is, John?
Yeah, it's gotta be back in the twenties, probably, or thirties. Of course, when was the fire? That was 29? I don't know if it survived the fire or not.
Courthouse burned down?
Oh, yeah,
Did.
oh, yeah.
Did somebody playing with fire or just?
No, the boiler got too hot.
What time of year? Was it winter?
It was winter, yeah. And so then they rebuilt for a grand total of not quite $1 million. And of course, it was just a square box back then, you know, all the additions came.
Yeah, better be
Days coming,
considerably
we're
more.
gonna have to build a new one.
Well, I always thought that either next to the fairgrounds or next to the sheriff's department.
I was at the West Holden Lutheran Church, so.
Oh, must've been the cakewalk.
Something around there.
Sweet.
My wife, if there's any angry people,
There might be somebody in zoning with plates.
this will calm you down.
Sugar?
It doesn't calm you down, it amps you up.
Get you more aggravated.
Yeah. Hey, pretty handsome bunch, isn't it?
Where's Shirk? Where's John?
I don't know. He'll be here.
That's fine, I think Carol should be, was there an extra packet in there?
It's a nice summer night. He's probably voting.
Do well, I couldn't blame him.
The last night before 4 crappy ones.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Hopefully it'll be a nice by the 4th, so vacationers can enjoy it. I guess Saturday might squeak by.
You been to the new restaurant downtown yet, John? Did you go to the new restaurant downtown yet?
Not yet, no.
Everybody says it's really nice.
No, I'm sure it is.
A little, you know, a little
A little pricey.
eat in. Don't go.
What is it?
Huh?
Eat in. I mean, if you get good service and good food, it's only money.
Yeah,
Well,
going
the guy
to eat,
that
huh?
has Two Oaks North has a chef, yeah, a chef from out there is down here too.
Yeah.
So the food's
Keeps
gotta
them,
be
keeps
good.
them busy, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think they hired staff, you know.
Got that thing running? Yeah, I'm ready to go. Thanks, man.
Hi, Donna.
You should maybe send out emails on the days of meetings to remind guys during the summer.
I was, and I'm glad that John must have, I don't know if he called Dave, because Dave usually, he'd call unless I told him not to.
Well, he came to the onsite, so he didn't say anything he
No,
wasn't
I
gonna
know,
be
no,
here.
I was afraid of Dave Williams just showing up, and then we'd be like, "Oh, we don't need you."
I saw him at church a couple of weeks ago, and I says, yeah, we got hearings. I says, but Todd will let you know if you're needed or not, because Ben's
Yeah.
is back, so.
Right.
All right, here we go. You ready? Evening, everybody. I will call this meeting of the Waushara County Board of Adjustments to order. This meeting will begin with a public hearing. Anyone other than the applicant or the representative wishing to speak must register and submit the registration slip to the zoning administrator at this time. This is Todd. Following the public hearing, the board will conduct its monthly business meeting, at which time we will vote on the applications. You may stay for the meeting and hear how the applications are decided, or you may leave following the hearing. The applicant and town board will be sent a copy of tonight's decision. Any other person wishing to receive a copy of a decision can sign the sheet on the table at the front of the room. Those of you wishing immediate knowledge of the outcome of these proceedings may call the county zoning office tomorrow morning. The procedure we will follow for hearing each application is, After each application is read, the applicant, their agent, or representative will have the opportunity to present their application, followed by any questions or comments from the board. Then all correspondence will be read. Then others in favor will have a chance to speak. Anyone objecting will then have a chance to speak. I will then ask for a summary of the board's field observations and any staff comments. Finally, the applicant will be allowed a chance for a brief rebuttal if they wish. Anyone wishing to speak should use the microphone at the podium here, state their name, and direct their comments to the board. I ask that all testimony be kept brief, no more than 5 minutes, and to the point. If you are testifying as a nearby landowner, please tell us where your property is located relative to the subject property. Tonight's hearing will be recorded, and the recordings will become part of the record. Comments that are based on hearsay or secondhand information, as well as slanderous or prejudicial remarks, will be ruled out of order. The board has looked at all the properties, and the record will reflect their observations. Any person affected by an administrative decision of this board has 30 days from the filing of tonight's decision to make an appeal. Such appeal shall be heard by the Waushara County Circuit Court. Information is available from the Clerk of Court's office and qualified legal counsel. The county assumes no liability and makes no warranty as to the legality of any construction commenced prior to the expiration of this 30-day period. I will now introduce the board. Larry Tim, Bob Wadle, John Bentz, I'm Kevin Fitzgerald, and our zoning administrator, Todd. We have one application for tonight for variance. 219 West Maple LLC has made application for a variance in accordance with sections 58-826 sub D and 58-232 sub 7 of the Waushara County Zoning Code to construct a 48 by 32 pole shed with 8-foot wide by 32-foot wide by 20-foot long L-shaped overhang within the visual clearance of Oak Street and Lake Drive. And a covered overhang constitutes a covered patio deck not permitted on an accessory building in an RS-20 zone within the shoreland area. Location, Lot 5, Block 2 of Indian Hill Subdivision, Section 25, T19N, R9E, Town of Deerfield, Oak Street, and Lake Drive. We will ask that the applicant, Mr. Hopper? Yes. Step to the microphone, please. And let us ask you, state your name for the record and explain what it is that you'd like to do out at the property.
My name's Richard Hopper. Can you hear? Okay. It doesn't sound to me like it is, so. I'm trying to build a storage building, basically a garage, large garage. I'm planning on retiring up here in the next couple of years. Basically 18 months from now, I'll be eligible to draw my pension. I wanted to come up here and live and sell what I have down to the south. The big thing is the storage, though. You all were probably out there looking it over, and it's a small place, and there is no garage or anything like that. And as I get older, I'm gonna have to have, a place to store things and that type of thing. The visual clearance, you all were out there, there's no visual clearance there now, as you can see. I plan on clearing that lot pretty much. The only thing I wanna save are the mature hardwood trees. Otherwise, the lot will be clear. So the visual clearance will end up being much better than it is now. With the overhang we're talking about, basically it's just a carport, like we've attached to houses for years and years, or garages. It's just an extension, so you have a little bit more of a semi-protected overhang for things that don't actually have to be inside, but it would be nice not to have rain and snow and that type of thing on. It's a very expensive building, or it is for me. I've saved, and I've worked my entire life getting ready to retire. And basically, this is what I can know I've talked quite a bit to zoning, and I've been told that, you know, my financials are not really their concern. But they are my concern, you know, and I have to think about a budget all the time. So just the carport, the 8 foot, would basically just be a place to maybe a small car, you know, 4-wheeler, some wood, you know, that type of thing. I'm not, you know, I understand that there are rules, but I also understand that, you know, we buy our properties to get to use them. And it's nice to use them as much as you possibly can, the way that you would like to use them. I think that's really, you know, all I really have to say, unless you all have some questions.
Yeah, I have a bunch of questions we're gonna ask you, and then the board may have some additional questions for you. And just answer them the best as you can. Has there been a recent survey?
Yes, I was required, the lot was staked in 4 places, and I was required to have a very expensive survey done before I could apply for it.
And you're sure where the road right-of-way is?
According to the survey, I have a copy of the survey here if you all don't.
It's right here too.
Yeah, we have one too. We all have
I
copies.
mean, I can only go by, you know, it was already staked when I purchased it. And then, the survey company here in
Yeah.
town resurveyed it and certified it as that's the only thing we could kind of think of, when they got, the difference between what it looks like, or I'm really out of my element here, I'm a heavy equipment operator, so I'm really kind of out of my element. But what I'm guessing happened there was that property at one time owned that road. And when they decided to put a road in there, or owned the place where the road is now, and when they decided to put a road in there, there's a big gully, or whatever you want. Wash. A wash, there's a big wash there. So I'm guessing, you know, years ago, this property up here probably didn't cost hardly anything. The landowner probably said, oh, you know, to help out the township or whoever had to build the road, you know, we'll give you that little area, so you don't have to do all that fill. You know, and that's just my guess as to what might have happened years ago.
Okay. We know you've talked to the town, correct?
Yes, sir.
You've been conversing with the county several times, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, sir.
And I don't know if the state would have any interest in this. We had a question out there, and this is a pretty big question. How will you deal with the erosion and stormwater runoff?
Okay, I've talked to, one, the excavating company, and he's made a plan, gave me a bid, he said that I wouldn't have a problem with it. I'm not sure exactly what the question,
Well, you're gonna clear the canopy of trees,
right.
and now you're gonna have runoff on a big structure. What are you gonna do with the stormwater runoff?
Well, to keep it from hitting the structure, I would drain it, you know, however the excavating company
Okay.
could drain it.
What kind of foundation are you gonna do this?
Well, it's just a gravel with a concrete. I mean, I think, maybe it isn't on there, but it's just a concrete slab.
Okay. In your application here tonight, there's I think you typed this up, I'm not sure.
Oh, yes, sir, I typed that up.
An engineered wall may be necessary if the grades are raised. What can you tell us about that?
Well, what that was about was, they were wanting me to move it, there's another like 8 feet that I think it could be moved closer to my other property. And they wanted me to move it down there, and that's what that was talking about. If I got any farther down, if you look at the survey map, that elevation really starts to drop after the building.
Okay.
So if I had to move down 8 more feet, it would drop about 3.5 more feet. So, yes, you know, that would have to be a lot of fill put in there.
All right, I'll get back to the other question I have later. How far above the existing grade will the first floor elevation be?
I'm out of my element. I have, you know, a picture that I turned into them, you know, with the roof line.
There's no steps going in where the slab's gonna be? It's gonna be level?
Just come right into it.
Okay. And also through the garage door that you're proposing, correct? That'll be all level.
That'll all be level. You
Okay.
know, the excavating company will,
How much filling and grading are you gonna have to do?
again, I'm a crane operator, I'm heavy equipment, but I'm not an excavator, at all. And I thought it was gonna be it's expensive anyway. The bid to do that job is $5,600. Do the excavation, bring the gravel in, and make it ready for a slab. He said that the fill wasn't near what I thought it was gonna, what my guess was just looking at the property.
When we were out there, you had the green stakes along the line. I stood at the top and one of our other members walked down. It was probably about a 4 or 5 foot difference where my feet were and where he thought I was level. There's fill gonna have to come in there.
Well, there'll have to be some, but it wasn't, I was afraid it was gonna be a $10,000 excavation. And it only came in at like 5,600.
Okay.
I mean, and some of that he's gonna be able to get for digging out,
Yeah.
To come in for the gravel base. And he's gonna be able to bring that into level, is the way he was talking to me.
Okay, if this is the level part here and it slopes down and you're gonna have to put fill in here, now you're gonna have this level here, are you gonna need a wall here where that slope is?
Not supposed to have to, according to the excavator.
Okay. What's the finished height of the building gonna be?
I don't know, sir. I just have the plans.
The drawings are showing 16 foot 4 inches,
Okay,
which,
that's just what the builder allowed, gave me to give to you all.
Okay.
and 15 foot is the maximum for an accessory structure. So you may have to reduce your pitch.
Well, then I guess that's what I'm gonna have to do, is I have to bring my wall down. I wanted it to be as tall inside as possible.
I'm sorry, and I misspoke, I apologize, 18 foot, so he's good, I apologize.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
30, 35
So we've got a
on the house,
4,
right?
yeah, 412 pitch, and he would be allowed 18, so you're good. I
You're all right.
apologize, thank you.
I was gonna talk to the builder next, because I told him I wanted it to be as, because I am asking for some things. I wanted it to not ask for any more than I absolutely had to.
Okay. Are you planning any other improvements?
Not on that piece of property. On the one next door, I would plan on, if I get this to be built, then I plan on doing a fairly major renovation on the other property.
Are you putting water or septic system in with this shed?
Eventually, I talked to the zoning, I wanted to just rough in for a bathroom now, but I'm gonna have to get a permit or, I forget what they called it, but a perk test, I think, basically is what it is, just to get a permit.
You'd need a full sanitary permit.
Right.
And then
I just wanna rough,
keep-
again, money is, I'm not rich at all,
Keep in mind too, accessory structures they're not designed to be habitable. They're
Well, I
they're
agree.
primarily for storage, and we have allowed in residential areas like slop sinks for workshops and things like that. We really frown upon, bathrooms and facilities like that because they end up being more or less used as residences.
Well, I said, the building's not big enough for what I have to store in it already, and that's part of the reason asking for the overhang. It's gonna be, by the time you get 3 cars and boats, and motorcycles and 4-wheelers, the building's not really as big as I would have liked to have built, but it's budget-wise all I can do. So there's no way I'd be able to make it, living quarters, if that's what you want to call it, because it's gonna be completely full for storage.
I think what Todd's telling you, they look for overflow on the weekends too, as being people using them for habit. People staying.
When I talked to the town of Deerfield, they said that they might make me sign an affidavit saying that I would not do that type of thing, which is, I'd be very willing to do.
Okay. I got some more questions for you. All other setbacks gonna be met?
Yes,
What about enough room for parking? A double driveway from the house, and then you're gonna have a circle drive, or?
No, just coming off that lot.
A driveway right off of Lake going right in.
Okay. What about room for turning around? You gonna be able to do that there?
Oh, I plan on, it's gonna be a 16-foot wide, but otherwise I'd have to back out.
What other options have you considered?
I hadn't even thought about it, sir.
What are the hardships?
Not able to place building on existing cabin lot due to cabin placement and steep grades that are there. Not feasible to fill on proposed vacant building lot due to the elevation extending along the roads on Lake Drive and Oak Street, north and east side. My original plan was to come in off of Oak with a driveway in at the end of the building, but as I talked to the excavator, as you all were out there, that's much more extreme over on the Oak Street side than it is. Financially not possible to regrade and fill the west end of the lot. And then if I did have to do that, an engineered wall would have to be put in, and that would be cost prohibitive. And not possible to move the proposed building farther south due to the lot setback line.
It'd be closer to your cabin, right? All right, stay right on that page. What are the unique property limitations?
Due to the steep grades on west end of parcel, the proposed building has been proposed to sit as far west and south as possible. This will leave only about 20% of the northeast corner of the building laying within the 150-foot visual triangle.
And then you got the existing roads, right?
Right, due to the existing roads, Lake Drive and Oak Street adjacent to the parcel, any changes in grades or elevations are limited.
Sounds like you know what permits you'll need so far.
So far, I'm sure, this has been going on since November, I think. The bad snow kind of slowed me down with the survey guy couldn't cross the snowbanks. So, and it's the first time I ever built it. I've always just purchased, so this is an entirely new experience.
Learning experience, isn't it? What, when would you, build, if this was approved, when would you start?
My date is to be built in August.
Okay. You have a firm commitment from a builder? They're all
Well,
tied
that's,
up.
I had a firm commitment in November when I went to think about the price of it.
Yeah.
And now I'm afraid my firm commitment is gonna be, the last time I talked to him, he said he'd probably just have to put on another crew.
Okay. Other committee members, questions?
You said your building's gonna be 48 by 32. That's a pretty good sized building.
Yes, sir.
And you're gonna put in 3 cars, et cetera.
3 cars, no boat.
Yeah, instead of having it stored under the overhang, you might have to get rid of 1 car or something, I don't know. Have you ever thought about combining those lots, by the way?
The only problem, those 2 lots are worth quite a bit more separate than they are together.
Even with just a shed on it, if you,
I think
Sold it-
there's a boat dock, a boat slip that goes with that lot.
oh, there is.
Yes.
Something we didn't know. Anyway, the overhang is something that would set a precedent in our county that we haven't done before. And we hate to turn these things into living quarters, which sometimes they do. And so, one reason for the overhang not being 8 feet, it's limited at 5, is that, we don't wanna set a precedent necessarily either, just wanna tell you that.
I can't imagine someone turning something as a concrete floor into a place to live.
It happens.
I mean, I couldn't live,
You should see what I find sometimes.
I couldn't live. That's the thing, I couldn't live in a.
You talk about the value of both lots, but you're using on the lot with the building you're proposing, there is almost all the buildable area you're using up as a whole accessory building, not as a house. So how could you sell that as, somebody use that as a residence then?
Well, they couldn't use it as a residence, they could use it as a storage area and the boat slip, basically.
Okay.
That's all I had.
I mean, that's a beautiful that's a beautiful lake, 30 feet deep. It's crystal clear, the bluegills jump in the boat, the northern eat those as you're trying to catch them.
Well, don't say that, everybody's listening to that.
You're gonna have a lot of company.
I mean, it's a, I'll take, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I was working in Marshfield, and I was looking for a place up here. I was living over at, Lake of the Woods, in my, mobile home, or whatever you want, my camper. Working on the pipeline in Marshfield, and every evening I would drive a different way, because that Lake of the Woods, I was up to like $3,200 a year for my lot rent, and that wasn't going away. So every day I would drive a different place, and I went to, saw this place, it had a little tiny for sale sign in the snow when I walked down there. I walked in, and the entire place is nothing but glass on the backside. It was like kind of being in a treehouse. I fell in love with it. It's the most peaceful, my wife says, you can just go up there and sit and do nothing, and you're happier than you
Yep,
are.
I know.
Because it's so quiet and so peaceful.
Any other questions? Larry? Okay. You can have a seat, and we'll go,
And I will, if I stay, I will be able to get a decision today.
yep, you can listen to us, when we're done, we'll tell you where we're gonna go, but we're gonna go do some other stuff here first. Correspondence? You can have a seat.
All right, thank you.
County Zoning Office received a call from Tom Whaley, who's the town chairman for Deerfield, on May 24th. He stated that this issue was discussed at their May 15th, 2019 board meeting. The board voiced no objection and ultimately voted in favor of the application. And that's all we've received. And in term,
I did get some, I don't know if you all have them, some things from the
Help, we go.
neighbors.
Yep. And
I have nobody that
nobody
registered to
registered to
speak
speak in favor?
or objecting, or
Objecting?
also informational only.
Okay, staff comments?
Okay. Believe everyone should have a final copy of the staff report. As indicated, this applicant, Richard Hopper, has made application to construct a 48 by 32 single-story pole shed with an 8-foot wide, 32 by 20 L-shaped overhang within the visual clearance of Oak Street and Lake Drive. Please note that the covered overhang does constitute a covered deck or patio, which normally is not permitted as on an accessory structure in an RS-20 zone. Subject site is a vacant residential lot located in Indian Hills subdivision that was platted originally in 1960. Vast majority of the subdivision is developed with single-family residents nearer to the mill pond. The subject lot, however, is undeveloped and remains primarily in its heavily wooded natural state. Should be noted that this lot does maintain significant grade and slope. It does slope drastically downward to the west away from Lake Street. The board visited the property at the recent onsite on Monday, June 17th, 2019, and had the following list of comments and/or concerns. The increase in the width of the overhang from maximum 5 feet permitted to 8 foot would set a precedent. Concern was raised over the increase in impervious surface and resultant stormwater runoff, specifically given the existing grades towards the rear of the lot and the fact that the applicant is proposing to clear cut the lot. Additional details were needed with regard to the proposed grades. Appears that either significant fill will need to be brought in and/or significant cut in the top slope will be necessary, and that the applicant should work with the Land Conservation Department on preparation of a stormwater management plan. And then question was raised over the possibility of combining the two lots, which I think was discussed tonight. Staff has reviewed this request and has visited the site on a number of occasions in an attempt to minimize the extent of the variance request. We've looked at a number of things, such as pushing the structure closer to the southerly and westerly lot lines. We even looked at rotating the structure. However, we felt that with this size building, any additional movement would just cast the additional site costs onto the applicant, while minimally affecting and/or improving the visual clearance area due to the lot layout and significant grade of said lot. It was also noted that the traffic was very light at this location. With regard to the overhang, however, it's always been policy of the zoning office and specific code requirement to prohibit covered decks, patios, and/or accessory structures, in an attempt to minimize the overhangs so that they're no wider than typically what would cover a walkway, which is typically a 5-foot maximum in a residential zoning district. We have found that large overhangs are only normally permitted and typically seen in our agricultural zoning districts, as they're typically designed as lean-tos for farm animals. Allowing a wider overhang could establish a negative precedence for future requests in our residential zones. While the board will be making a formal recommendation on this request, staff is recommending approval of the variance to construct a 48 by 32 single-story pole shed with individual clearance of Oak Street and Lake Drive, with the condition the 8-foot L-shaped overhang and concrete pad be reduced to no more than 5 foot wide by 32 by 20 foot long in the RS zone within the shoreland area, subject to the conditions listed within your report. I would like to point out something that was different from the draft that you had before you, is that number 8, we're asking that an individual erosion control plan be submitted to land conservation for review and approval prior to construction.
Rebuttal, your chance. Okay. Well, that concludes the public testimony here. And we are going to adjourn to our business meeting, and we're going to go in a little room right outside here, and you're welcome to join us and listen to our discussion. And you're not able to participate, but the board will discuss it. Okay?
Stay home.
You want fishing?
Hey, Kyle, what do you want to take, just in case you need it? Here's the folder. Thanks.
Can I go in? Yep, now our committee is going, the P and Z is going over to certain spots, but I'm gonna. Yep, gotcha. Yeah, you're first. You don't think we'd do this to you twice, do you?
Sitting there, Carl.
When we get down to, going through stuff and everything, you know, you were this first one, 'cause it's a pain in the butt. When we get down to it, you make the motion. And everything, and then take the hours. Okay? Same goes for you.
That's not my job, that's
Okay.
yours.
All right. You want one of these?
I got one right there.
This is what we're doing on the thing at the end. Report and everything, and we're in our regular meeting and everything. And it's just the same, going through all those. But you need to make a motion for it, to do it. When we get all done, okay, we'll come down, we're gonna be doing the motion and everything, and we need somebody to motion on it. Just gonna do one of them. I was hoping you would do one of them, cause I feel like doing all three of them. And then it's just doing these things to it.
Oh, like we
This-
normally do.
Yeah, this is exactly like you normally do.
Oh, yeah, I got
So,
these.
okay?
Sure.
Thank you.
Grab some treats.
What's up? I'm kinda confused.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, yes, there's forms right out here. Let me show you.
Call this meeting to order, the Waushara County Planning and Zoning Committee to order. This meeting will be conducted in the same manner as the applications heard by the Board of Adjustment. Please remember to keep your comments brief, no more than 5 minutes, and relative to the matter at hand. Anyone other than the applicant or their representative wishing to speak at this hearing must have registered. Anyone who has not should do so immediately and submit a registration slip to the zoning administrator. The committee has looked at all of the properties and will will reflect these observations. Following the public hearing, the committee will conduct their monthly business meeting, at which time we will vote on the applications. You may stay and hear how the applications are decided, or you may leave following the public hearing. Any person affected by an administrative decision of this committee has 10 days from the filing of tonight's decision to file an appeal. Such appeals are heard by the Waushara County Board of Adjustment. Information and applications are available from the county zoning office. The county assumes no liability and makes no warranty as to the legality of any construction commenced prior to the expiration of this 10-day period. I will now introduce our committee. Carl, George, Jerry, and Pat. Now Mike. I missed getting my name on here, but I still remembered it.
Thank you.
Zone change, Rose Enchanted Forest Campground, LC, Wild Rose, Wisconsin, has made application for a zone change in accordance with section 58-131 through 138, 58-361, 58 through 451, and 58-722 of the Waushara County zoning code from AG General Agriculture to CS Service Commercial and OP Park Recreation to establish great store with convenience goods and camp office with proposed placement of a 22 by 26 foot building in a proposed approximate 100 by 100 area to be rezoned CS and the remaining portion to exist campground to be conditionally changed to OP to more accurately reflect the current land use within the shoreline area. Location, an approximate .25 area of an existing 31 area acre somewhere I left my coat home, anyway. Location approximately .25 area of an existing 31 acre parcel of land to be rezoned CS Service Commercial with the remaining 30.75 acres to be rezoned OP Park and Recreation, all being part of the southwest quarter of the northwest quarter except CSM 3412 and part of a government lot 1 in section 27, section 26, T20 North, RL, R11, E, Coosa Lake, Town of Springwater, W5695, County Road A. Guess we just did that. Rose's Enchanted Forest Campground, LLC, W5695, County Road A, Wild Rose, Wisconsin, 54984. Contact Richard Rose, W595S, County Road A, Wild Rose, Wisconsin, 54984.
Mr. Chairman, we can just ask the applicant just to come up.
Okay. And at this time, if any, I got her. If the applicant would come forward to the mic. Thank you. The, because the recording is a little heavy once in a while, we need to have it so that you talk into the microphone all the time the best you can so that we get everything loaded down. Okay. I'll get the right page here. Now that you're up, the after completion, there, yeah, I did it this morning. Okay. Well, the applicant's already up forward, and we would ask that you speak into the microphone, as we said, as the recording again is tough. And after the presence application, after completion, we'll thank you and give you a chance to sit down. However, we would like to know what you're planning on doing and how you're going to go about doing it.
Okay. My name is Kim Rose. This is my husband Richard. We would like to put up a building to use as an office and a camp store. It will be for private use for our campers. We have a 71 site campground, and currently I've been servicing them out of a breezeway between my house and my garage. And when we became members of Waco about 3 or 4 years ago now, I discovered all these wonderful things you can put in a camp store, and I'm just quickly outgrowing my breezeway. So I've been bugging this guy for a store for a couple of years. We started this spring contacting zoning here. We're told we only needed a land use permit. We were just gonna haul in a off-site built building, and as we got further down the road with that, we discovered we couldn't. Had to be put onto a foundation. So we said, why are we putting a foundation under a building that already has a foundation? So we decided to scratch that idea and build it from the ground up.
Primarily the usage of the building, again, like my wife had said, to be office, store, and storage. All practical purposes, be, sale of T-shirts, campground chemical, bug spray, things like that, pretty much for the convenience of our campers. Again, we're 71 campsites, and we're all seasonal, so we don't have any weekenders coming in, so to speak, coming in just for a couple of days or so. The people that are there have made a commitment to us, as well as the area, pretty much to, use the businesses in the area and then stay there. It's more of a, I call it a poor man's cottage. Although some of these campers are nicer than some of my first apartments.
Yeah. Does the committee have any questions or requires anything?
Yeah, so we were out there yesterday, we saw the area, and I think we met one of your fathers, okay? Okay, and he had mentioned also, as you had mentioned, storage. So what exactly do you plan on storing in the building? Is it personal property, or is it property from the campers,
It
or
would be campground, owned,
campground?
excessive inventory, basically.
Okay. I mean, are we talking like paint and gas cans, or are we talking, so what exactly do you inventory at the campground that would need storage?
Decorations.
Okay,
Yeah, we do seasonal type parties, so it would be our Halloween decorations would be stored in there.
Okay.
Christmas decorations would be stored in there for Christmas and July, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
The only thing as far as chemicals that would be in there would be toilet chemical.
okay. And then you'd mentioned T-shirts and other supplies for the campground. Would food items be part of that, or?
I'm not planning to at this time. I will have to check and see what we're allowed to have in there as far as convenience good. Again, all of our campers are seasonal, so if they don't have it, their neighbor does.
Sure,
And Benny's is 3 miles down the road, so I don't see a need to keep a full-fledged convenience store in there. I just don't think I'd sell through the stuff.
Okay.
I'm looking more for the T-shirts and sweatshirts and bug spray, toilet chemical, that kind of stuff.
right. Just stuff you couldn't really run to town and grab.
Right,
From-
and all of the T-shirts and are obviously all logoed, so,
Right,
yeah. you don't
absolutely.
read those at Benny's.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
So the campers that would they utilize the store, would they usually walk there? Would they drive their car? Would they drive a golf cart? How would they?
Most of them come up to the house now by either golf cart or walk.
Okay, so you wouldn't need a great deal of parking for this?
No.
Okay.
And then the few that would come up in a car could pull right across in front of the shed that's right there.
Okay.
There's plenty of parking there.
And when you say seasonal, I was curious, is it, you close down in the wintertime, or is it open for some
don't-
campers?
We don't close during the winter months, but I don't necessarily service them during the winter months either. Right now, they get an electric bill in the summer months, but nothing in the winter. We do keep the roads plowed, so if any of them wanted to come up and go ice fishing or snowmobiling, they could stay in their campers. But at that point, I would not have the store open, because it will not be heated. I don't want to sit there and earn a cold.
In the same respect, even though this may be called a store, it's not going to be, they're not going to have set hours. We're not going to be like, 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock at night. It'll be pretty much, if somebody needs something and we're going to be in the campground, we're there all the time, we're very accessible. Hey, I need some potty chemical. Okay, I'll meet you up there. They'll call us on a cell phone or something, or they have friends over, they want to buy a few T-shirts or something like that. Hey, can we look at the T-shirts? Yeah, we'll meet you up there, not a problem at all. As closest to regular hours would be maybe on Sunday. Kim might stay in there just for somebody wants to pay an electric bill or something.
So there would be electricity, but nothing else?
Nothing major.
Yes,
Okay.
electricity only.
I have a question regarding safety concerns with the golf carts, the use of golf carts. Have you any instructions how to use a golf cart in a proper manner?
We have rules within the campground of, you must be either 18 years old or a licensed driver to drive them. We have posted all over the campground 5 miles an hour.
Golf carts must have lights, be in good working order. Again, to be honest with you, we live right there. If any shenanigans go on, we know it, and it's addressed pretty much immediately. And as far as the golf carts are concerned, we don't own those. Those are owned by them, and they are required to have insurance on them at all times.
Thank you.
And I just had one more. Is the building gonna be plumbed?
No.
No, okay.
Does the staff have any questions for the applicant?
We've received no correspondence, and we don't have anybody to speak in favor, objecting, or informational only. With regard to the staff report, I believe everyone should have the final version in front of them. As stated in the summary of request, the applicant, Richard Rose of Rose's Enchanted Forest Campground, is requesting a zone change from AG to CS, or Service Commercial, and that would allow construction of a small retail store on the premises. And also, we are asking, and they have agreed to include this along with their application, rezone the property from AG to OP, which would, the Parks and Recreational Zone, to accurately reflect and at the more current land use that's upon the property. Rose's Enchanted Forest Campground is an older campground that's been in existence since the early 70s, situated on 29.5 acres in the town of Springwater, just off the northeast shore of Wilson Lake. The campground is comprised of 71 sites, and unlike most of the other campgrounds that maintain an underlying zoning of OP, the entire property right now is currently AG, General Agricultural. The other thing too is, more common with some of the other campgrounds that we have in the county, there's usually a small little commercial component, and that would also take care of that. Committee visited the property at their recent on-site on Wednesday, June 19th, and felt that the inclusion of a small retail store would help the business run more efficiently, and is also in keeping with other similar campgrounds. They also believe that rezoning the balance of the property to OP will bring the campground into current compliance. Staff has reviewed this request and finds the zone change request to be consistent with most campgrounds in the county and will more accurately reflect the existing land uses. While the committee will be making a formal recommendation on this request, staff is recommending approval of a zone change from AG zone to CS, Service Commercial, and OP, Park and Recreational Zone, to establish a retail store with convenience goods and a camp office with proposed placement of a 22 by 26 building in a proposed approximate 100-foot by 100-foot area of the existing campground to be rezoned CS. The remaining portion of the existing campground will be conditionally changed to OP to more accurately reflect the current land uses within the shoreland area, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report that you have before you.
Is there anyone that's signed up to speak?
Nope.
That makes it better. Would the staff like to present their,
Nope. We're good there.
there's that? Okay.
Ask if there's any rebuttal.
Is there any rebuttal? No. All right.
That concludes this.
That concludes that portion, and we will be moving to an application for conditional use. Robin Lots, W 9406 Check Road, Watoma, Wisconsin. Is made an application for a conditional use in accordance with sections 58-236 parenthesis 4, 58-544, parentheses 6 of the Waushara County zoning code, and established the dental laboratory as a home occupation in the RS-20 residential single-family zone. Location of approximately 2.0 acre parcel of land being part of a south 1/2 of the northeast 1/4, section 31, T 18 north, location at approximately 2 acre parcel of land being part of the south 1/2 of the northeast 1/4 of the town 18 north. Right, 10 east, town of Dakota, W9406, Check Road. Will the applicant please, oh, here we go. Thank you. Will you please give your name and loud enough so that we can understand and hear it?
My name is Robin Lotes, and I'm starting a dental laboratory in my home that is 403 square feet. My business will be conducted with pickup and deliveries at dental offices, mail, or UPS. The public will not be solicited, and I will be conducting business solely as a home occupation. I have attended Dakota Town Hall meeting with no opposition. I have spoken with Tim Tritt, May 14th at 7:15 a.m. No requirements were needed to meet commercial code. Excuse me. The total area square footage of my home is 2,244.
Okay. Would the bunch here have any questions or anything they'd like to find out?
Sure. And while we were out at your residence yesterday, I had asked about, you know, and obviously, I don't know what all goes into, you know, creating dentures and partials and things like that, but I had asked about ventilation down there. And you addressed that, and I just would like you to sort of address it again for the record, what kind of ventilation that you have down there for any, you know, smoke or dust or anything like that.
I have the usual windows that are put into the basement that are now there that open. So I wanted to put a vent hood that would be where the processing goes on. There is some smells of acrylics and stuff that could be toxic, so there would be ventilation there for that. We'll be getting a vent hood that'll be right below where the window's open.
Okay, all right. And you'd mentioned just now acrylics. Are there any other like hazardous materials or quasi-hazardous materials that you work with on a regular basis to create the dentures or partials?
Well, I work with melted wax or molten wax where I carve it and, you know, melt it to create the type of appliances that would be tried in, like a denture setup, so to speak.
Okay.
And so for that reason, I do have melted wax. So I would have a fire extinguisher down there at that time, all the time,
Okay,
in case of anything. But
sure,
I work with heated instruments too as well.
okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have adequate insurance for coverage of your business?
As of right now, I have not researched that. I wanted to see if I could incorporate health insurance, homeowners insurance, and auto insurance for business, you know, for, you know, pickup and delivery.
Yeah.
That I'm sure is gonna change as well.
Seeing that it would be the only person within that building or area, workspace, I would definitely like to see, you know, you properly covered,
Thank you.
you know, because it does make a difference for a person to be properly covered.
Thank you very much.
Does the staff have any questions?
Nope, we have not received any correspondence, and at this present time, we don't have anybody registered to speak in favor, objecting, or informational at all. In terms of the report, everyone has a final draft. As stated, the applicant, Robin Lotz, is requesting a conditional use to establish a dental laboratory as a home occupation in an RS-20 residential single-family zone. Robin has indicated that her business will be predominantly consist of small-scale molding and manufacturing of dental implants, dentures, and inscriptions for local dentists. She further explains that, she will have no other employees nor public visiting her home, and that all business is conducted primarily via deliveries directly to dental offices using the U.S. Mail Service or UPS. Committee visited the property at the recent on-site on Wednesday, June 19th, 2019, and felt that the applicant had a well-thought-out business plan and that it was an ideal home occupation. They believe the business is addressing an untapped market and a need to the area while not negatively impacting traffic in the area, as all business is conducted via the mail. Staff has reviewed this request and believes that a small dental laboratory within existing residence with no increase in traffic nor additional employees falls well within the county's guidelines established for home occupations and should in no way negatively impact surrounding land uses. While the committee will be making a formal recommendation on this request, staff is recommending approval of the conditional use request to establish a dental laboratory as a home occupation, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report.
Thank you. Any other questions or anything that anyone has? All right, move right along.
Robin, want a rebuttal?
Is there any rebuttal? Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Next is David Ward. David Ward, Teresa, Wisconsin, as the landowner, has made application for a conditional use in accordance with sections 58-236, parentheses 18, and 58-454, parentheses 11, of the Waushara County zoning code to establish a dog kennel with training of dogs for competitive field events, hunts, maximum of 24 dogs, adult dogs, no outside boarding, utilizing an existing 40 by 64 foot building with inside runs and approximately 150 by 150 fenced in yarding in the AG General Agricultural Zone. Location of approximately 23.282 acre parcel of land being part of the south 1/4 of the southwest 1/4, lot 2 of certified survey map number 4720 and easement of section 4 T189 R10E Town of Dakota W8702 Cottonville Avenue. Any or all of the above items will be viewed prior to, and we did, and would you explain what you're doing and how you're going about it? And
No, well, I train dogs. I train I train retrievers for competitive field trials. Been doing it since 1992 down in Thrust, Wisconsin, in Dodge County. And the situation warranted for me to move up to Waushara County when I purchased the 104 acres about 3 years ago for training purposes. Because of the situation that I had down in Dodge County, the lease that I had on that piece of property was being bought by the children of one of the clients that I had. And so because of that, I needed a place to train, so I purchased that piece of property over on Cottonville Avenue. In the process, about 2 years ago, the landowner, Diana Minster, had offered her piece of property to sell. Unfortunately, she was asking a little bit more than I could afford. And so this last spring, she came up to me and said that she dropped the price, and so I jumped on it. So I need to move my facility from where I'm at to the property I purchased a couple weeks ago.
Okay, so you're just in the process of getting it ready?
Correct, yeah, we closed on Diana's property about 2 weeks ago. In the process, we're trying to sell our piece of property down in Dodge County. Unfortunately, that fell through, so I'm making 2 mortgages right now, so so I'm trying to keep my business going, so yes.
Okay. Does the committee or staff have any questions?
Well, my observation on the field site inspection, I was very pleased how you presented it to the committee. And it seems that you are very well organized, and I'd like to see you continue to go forward with the program. And I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I just like the board to know that these aren't just dogs. These are competitive athletes. The clients that I have put thousands and thousands of dollars into these dogs. Vet care, health care, training, and in just the competitive environment itself. I mean, we compete all across the country, so this isn't just a run-of-the-mill, you know. You bring your dog in, and I work with it for 2, 3, 4 weeks, and it goes home. These dogs, some of these dogs have been with me for 5, 6, 7 years, and so they're very well cared for.
Yeah, and I think when we were out there, you know, just a couple things that I had noted that, you know, I guess at this point are just mild concerns more than anything, is just during the course of conversation, there seemed to be a line drawn between, you know, kenneling dogs and, you know, or boarding dogs, I should say, and what you do, which is holding them for training. And, you know, basically, it just seemed a little bit more of a matter of semantics, and I would guess as you know, look at the DACAP and all that, that there's probably no difference to how you hold the dogs to how dogs have to be held if someone's, you know, paying you to board them, much less train them.
Yeah, correct. I was trying to impress upon the board that these aren't just boarding dogs that are just brought in, fed, taken care of, and then I just walk away at, you know, and come back out 3, 4 hours later. Right. These dogs get constant care, you know, 12 hours out of the day except for when I'm sleeping.
And then the only other concern that I had was, you know, it seemed like there was just a bit of a casual nature to the spelling of the floor runoff. And the way you have planned may be appropriate. But I just want to make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. If that needs to be, you know, sent to a confined area, you know, or a POUT system or something like that.
That'll be looked into as we move forward. I'm sure there's other departments I'm going to have to jump through a few hoops on to try to get
but
this
like I
done.
said, they're just mild concerns, that's all.
Yeah,
So,
I understand.
But, thank you.
I had a couple questions. When we were at the site, the building that you're gonna have the kennels in, you were explaining that, when you open those doors up, was that area gonna be cemented? Or was it just gonna be like it is now?
No, the area inside the kennel?
No,
Or
when
inside
you
the
open the
building?
door, once you're outside the kennel.
Right, the air, well, like we call the airing yard.
Yep.
It's where
Airing
the
yard.
dogs go out and they
Right.
air, they do their thing, you know, a little bit of exercise before they're loaded up and taken out to the field to work.
It will remain in that state that it was in gravel? Or it's gonna
Well,
be?
what the plan is that I would want to get some gravel. The facility I have now, I have pea gravel down.
Okay.
So all the solid waste and the fecal matter and stuff, it gets scooped up and it gets, you know, tossed into a bag and then hauled off the site through, you know, through this disposable.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that area will be preferably pea gravel. Although the sand is not bad, but it makes it a little bit tougher to clean up the kennels when the dogs keep dragging sand in all the time. So pea gravel works out the best.
Okay. And then, the other question I had was, you talk about you've had some of these dogs for like 5 years. You're saying that they'll come up and be trained for a couple weeks?
Yeah, I have clients from all over the country, from, from South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, New Jersey. I've had couple from California, and they bring their dogs to me to train, and then when they can, some of them are retired, so I get some of the clients are there quite a bit that come out, train with their dogs, and actually compete in a different stake than the one than the one I run in, and so they come out, work with their dog, and then they compete to try to get field titles on these dogs for breeding purposes.
Okay. Okay, I wanted to make, you don't have them for 5 years. You have them on and off through those 5 years for training.
Some of them come in January, like the beginning of January, like the first week of January, and I take the dogs in, I load them all up on that truck and trailer, and I go down to Georgia till April, because I've got a facility down in Georgia, and I train down there because obviously no one's gonna want to break ice to put the dogs in the water up here, so I go down to Georgia where it's a little warmer, and then the middle of April I come back up here and just continue the process with the same dogs. And then I would say like the end of October, beginning of November, then I would say 90% of the dogs go home, except for a couple of the young ones that I might be working with through November and December until I go back down in January.
Any other questions? Does the staff have any questions?
Nope. We haven't received, the zoning office has not received any correspondence. I do have a couple people registered to speak in favor and one also to speak for informational only. To speak in favor, Daniel Chessman.
Okay. You go ahead and sit down.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Evening to the honorable members of Zoning and Planning Committee and to Dave and to the members of the audience. My name is Dan Chessman, and I am speaking for myself in favor of the applicant. I'm a neighbor of his. I live at the property of West 8686 Cottonville Avenue in Watoma. We own 6.5 acres. We just moved there permanently. We've owned the property for almost 7 years. And I finally retired, and we came up here because we love the area. We love the beauty, and we love the peace and the quiet. We've recently had the privilege of meeting Dave and his daughter, and we're looking forward to having them as neighbors for as long as we live. And we also, or I should say, fully support what he's doing. I never expected to ever, I never even heard of this industry or what have you, this type of competition. I didn't know it existed, and we especially appreciate what he and his group have done to preserve the beauty. We have a spectacular view surrounding our properties, and I'm just so thankful that, you know, that's another plus to having him as a neighbor. The only, I'm up here to support him, and I don't have any answers the only concern we have is the noise level. That, you know, we love dogs when we fully understand that you don't keep a dog quiet. We also know that the training involves some gunfire because they have to get used to, you know, that's part of the competition. And again, not knowing or having any ideas to present, that's our only concern is with the kennel in there. And Dave has assured us, he's already shown, you know, in our discussion with him, it sounds like the kennel is going to be about as far away from our property line, you know, as possible. And so that, you know, it can't get any better than that. and that's it, you know. We support them, I support them, and we just are getting used to, you know, a little bit concerned about the noise level, that's all.
Thank you. I'm fairly familiar with that area myself. I worked up there when I was in high school on the farms that they have up there. There were a lot more trees and things up there at that time, and I just love it up there. That's fantastic, fantastic. So, thank you.
Okay. And we have Elizabeth Chessman to speak for informational purposes only.
I was not aware of what my husband was going to say. So that would be, he stated my concern is the noise level. I just want to reiterate that we did move up there for the peace and quiet. We really treasure that, moving from the big city near Chicago. This is really nice and beautiful scenery, and we're glad apartment buildings or something didn't go in next door. So the noise level is my main concern at this time. How is he going to counteract that? Would be my question. So, thank you.
Thank you.
With regard to staff's comments, summary of the request is the applicant, David Ward, is requesting a conditional use to establish a dog kennel with training of dogs for competitive field events and hunts. It should be noted that there are a maximum of 24 adult dogs, is what David is requesting, with no outside boarding, utilizing an existing 40 by 64 outbuilding with inside runs and an approximate 150-foot by 150-foot fenced airing yard in a general agricultural zone. When staff looked at this, one thing that we found especially appealing about this property is that the subject 24 acres, which is located at the bend of Cottonville Avenue, is completely surrounded by vacant property. 105 acres of which to the north and east is owned by the applicant himself, and which is shown on the tax purposes or tax books as Cottonville Training LLC. And the balance, over 300 acres, is owned by the DNR to the west and to the south. The closest, nearest resident is over 1/4 of a mile away, which I believe is your residence. The committee did visit the property at the recent on-site on Wednesday, June 19th, and felt that the proposed dog kennel training facility was an ideal use for the land and appropriately located. They also believe the use to be a good business partner for the county. The only concern raised was over the disposal and runoff of animal waste and potential runoff of cleaning products during cleaning operations. I did contact the DNR. I have also given Mr. Ward some information from the DNR regarding disposal of animal waste. So he does have a couple contacts. It appears that, given the fact that the runoff will go into a trench drain, which we looked at when he opens up the barnyard, is that would have to probably go to a holding tank, and then he would be allowed to dispose of it either through land spreading or a disposal company. But I have given that, all the contact information for that. And then also I've, just reiterating the fact that, and it's one of the conditions for approval, is that he contact the commercial building inspector, Tim Tripp from General Engineering, just regarding the applicability of commercial building permits. Staff has reviewed this request and believes a proposed kennel training facility at this location should in no way detrimentally impact the surrounding land uses and is ideally situated for such a use. While the committee will be making a formal recommendation on this request, staff is recommending approval of the conditional use to establish a dog kennel with training of dogs for competitive field events, subject to the conditions that you have listed in the report before you.
Thank you. With that being done, we will complete and take a roll call. Oh, any rebuttal or anything on this?
David? David, do you have any rebuttal?
I guess I should.
Yeah, please.
Because time is a little of the essence, I talked to Leroy Bosky, who's gonna be the architect, who's gonna be inspecting it. He wanted me to ask this question,
I need to submit drawings for approval to the county? Or is this, or do I have to submit this to the state?
Yeah, once again, that's gonna be a comment or a question in that for Tim Tripp.
Oh,
You
so-
will have to apply for a land use permit with the county, but whether or not the plans, it's all dependent upon the square footage of what they determine to be commercial. And that would either go through general engineering, which is here in-house, or it may have to go before the state. But Tim Tripp would, and that would be the best person to talk to.
Okay, so just ask Tim about all these questions?
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
Do you have any rebuttal to the
Yep.
comments
Oh,
tonight?
yeah, no. I appreciate your effort, thank you.
Okay. Now, with that being completed, we'll please take a roll call.
George,
Here.
Jerry,
Here.
Carl,
Here.
Pat,
Here.
Mike?
Here. Okay. We're at the point where we are moving into our regular meeting now, and with any luck, we'll get it done soon. That being completed and our roll call taken, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion.
A second.
Motion